Hi everyone. Okay, another little presentation here. Not that little though, but just some FMS procedures that you may want to know if you don't, on how to program a few things on the FMS of the Dash 8 Q400. So I have come across a few areas to discuss with you. In this presentation, I will show you both in written text and also by actually performing the functions on the FMS in flight, as in how we can do some things to facilitate our flight. So without further ado, let's move on and start to discuss a couple of these things. So the first presentation which I want to give you is going to be how to create a waypoint from an existing waypoint. So you already have a waypoint on your flight plan routing in Magenta, and with reference to that particular waypoint you want to create another waypoint which has a certain radial or a distance or the like. So how do we do this? Well, as I said, I'll do it in text and in demonstration format. So first of all, I will describe to you what I've said in the text format, and then we'll go and see the video for each of those performances that we are talking about. So here we first of all go to the nav page on the FMS, then we go to the menu page, and then we select fix. On the line select key on the top left in the dashes, you'll enter any name of the waypoint you want to create. So you can give it any name. You can give it your name, in short, your girlfriend's name, or your favorite pilot's name. Could be me, well, maybe, or your whatever. So make it simple, and you can just give it a name, and then you press enter. After that, you will be prompted to define a reference point from which you want this waypoint to be from where you want it to be from the existing waypoint. Okay, because you've actually told the FMS that I want this waypoint. So the FMS has to ask you, from where do you want it? All right, and obviously it will be from the waypoint which is already existing on your flight plan. Excuse me. And then once you have typed in the name of the existing waypoint, you'll press enter twice, and then on the next line on the left hand side you'll be prompted to specify the radial from the existing waypoint on your flight plan routing and the distance you want the new waypoint to be from the existing waypoint as well. Once you have defined the radial and the distance, you'll press enter, and then you'll select accept waypoint. Once you have that, you will see this waypoint appearing nicely on the MFD. So what we can do, let's see. I'll talk to you through again in the video as well, but make sure you take notes of these so that at least you know quickly how to create any waypoint from an existing waypoint on your flight plan route, in case you want to circumnavigate or you are told to navigate to a particular radial on a particular distance, and so on and so forth. Okay, so let's see the presentation, how it looks like. Okay guys, here what we have is a display of the MFD, and the flight was from Dar es Salaam to Chileka Blantyre in Malawi. So what we have here on the MFD, first of all, before I unfreeze the video, is the flight plan routing in Magenta where the aircraft is flying. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to base everything on this point here, which is a created waypoint in the flight plan, which is next to a waypoint called ROVM, Romeo Oscar Victor Uniform Mike, which should be somewhere on this side of the track, which I'll also show you later how to display it. So I want to base all my explanations on this presentation based on this waypoint, which will be the same for any other waypoint or any other beacon that you may want to work on, in terms of making other reference waypoints from it and making radials and the like. So what we're going to do here, I'm going to show you all the steps on what I was talking about, and I'll be pausing as I go along because I was performing them on the FMS. So what we want to do here is to create another waypoint, okay, from Rovum somewhere on either side. We'll choose maybe the left hand side, doesn't matter, with a radial and a distance. Let's see how that works. So here we go. So the first thing, as you will see, I'll go on the FMS and I'm going to press nav. Then I'm going to press menu and I'm going to press fix. Okay, so you've seen that, nav, menu, fix. Now it's prompting me on the top left here. This is the line select key on the top left here. I want to create a waypoint. So I'm going to type in a name. I'll make it simple since I am making it with reference to ROV, Romeo Oscar Victor. I might just type in Romeo Oscar Victor 1, which is not in the database. The point should not be in the database for you to create it in the first place. So I'm going to type in Romeo Oscar Victor 1 and I'm going to press enter. And now you can see what is prompting me. It's prompting me to define the reference waypoint from which I want this new waypoint to be from. You see this one here is the one I put in as my new waypoint, the one I want to create. Here it's prompting me to put the reference from where I want this waypoint to be. So I'm going to type in this area here, I'm going to type in ROV because that's where I want it to be. So I'm going to type in Romeo Oscar Victor, enter, and then it's going to ask me to accept it, and I accepted it twice. Means enter means accepting. Now it's prompting me to define a radial from ROV rather, excuse me, and a distance. So I'm going to choose a radial, say for example 070 or 080 rather, and I'm going to define a distance of, let's say, 100 miles, and I'm going to press enter and I'll press accept waypoint. Once I've done that, as you can see, I'm going to go on the MFD and I'll check it, and you can see from Rovum it's on a radial of 080 there, and it's 100 miles from Rovum. So here's a waypoint that I've created. Okay, now this dotted line here is there because the ABEAM function is on. If I switch off the ABEAM, this waypoint is not going to be there any longer because it's defined with reference to my track here. So ABEAM means at 90 degrees. That's what ABEAM means. Okay, and once that's done, that's it. That's how you create a waypoint. Now I can just show you the ABEAM on function there. If I do ABEAM off, the waypoint will disappear, and I can bring back the ABEAM to be ABEAM on, means I'll bring the waypoint back to display. Okay, so that's basically how we create a waypoint from a known waypoint that we have on our flight plan route. So here's a flight plan route in magenta where the aircraft is following this one at the moment. Okay, this is a waypoint on the flight plan route, and I have created this waypoint with reference to the known existing waypoint there on a radial and a distance. I trust that is making sense so far. Now we can continue and see some other functions. Okay, then for this other presentation, what we're going to discuss here is to how to delete a created or a stored waypoint. So you've, like the one you created in earlier on, or you have something which is stored in the database and you want to just remove it. Remember, these can only be done with the waypoints that you have created, not those which are already in the database, in the fixed database, like the ones on the airway. These are to do with waypoints that you have made to maybe define a new route, and obviously shouldn't be compromising any safety parameters. So in order for you to delete a created waypoint or a stored waypoint, you go to data, then you select pilot data, and then you select waypoint. Then on the top right you will get a blank field where you've got to actually tell the FMS the name of the waypoint which you want to delete. Then you press enter, and then you're going to press delete twice, and that's about it, and that waypoint has been deleted. So not a big deal. Now let's see how that can be done in practice on the FMS. Okay, so here's the FMS again, and we're on the nav page. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to go into the data page, selecting pilot data and then waypoint. That was a sequence, if you remember: data, pilot data, and waypoint. Then it prompts you here, as I said, on the top right, to type in the waypoint you want to delete. So you're going to type in the same waypoint that we created, ROV1. So I'm going to type in Romeo Oscar Victor 1, and I press enter, and then it's going to give me an option to delete. There it is. I'll say delete and delete again, and there it is. That waypoint is now disappeared. It has gone from the database, and I can return to my nav page as initially I was. And that's about it. There's nothing else that I can say on that one. Let's move on to the next one now. Okay guys, in this other exercise we talk of what you call the PVOR. The P stands for pseudo, spelled as PSEUDO. So this function is very handy when let's say you want to extend the center line. If you're under radar vectors, when you're under radar vectors, likely you'll be in heading select and vertical speed mode. Okay, so you can extend the center line from center fix, or for ILS for example, or the find approach fix for non-precision approach, to infinity. So it gives you a situational awareness of a line that extends from the center of the runway all the way to infinity, and where your position is relative to that line. So we are not going to demonstrate for runway in this exercise because we are at 25,000 feet in this flight, and we are just using one particular waypoint on our route, which is called ROV, and we are basing everything on that. So to extend a radial from a particular waypoint or a beacon identifier, you go to nav, and then you select maneuver, and then you select PVOR. Once you do that, the FMS will prompt you to type the waypoint identifier from where you want to extend your line, and then that will be on the top left line select key. Once you choose the radial you want to extend, either inbound or outbound, once you've done that, you press accept. Okay, now what's going to happen here, if you are in LNAV, the aircraft has been told to go to that particular radial. So you have to be careful, because the aircraft will turn to intercept that radial. Unless you are told to do so by ATC, that's okay. But if you are just exercising for demonstration purposes, then you must press heading select. So the aircraft is flying heading select mode while you are playing around with the FMS. Okay, so be careful of that one. And then what I've just talked to you initially about the center line extension is all here. Okay, so it's a very handy tool. Now let's see how it works in practice on the FMS, which I'll demonstrate. Okay, so here we go again. FMS, rather the MFD is displayed here with our waypoint Rovum, and we are approximately 120 miles from Rovum at this stage. And if now we can show you how to do the PVOR function based on Rovum. So I'm going to go to the FMS now. There we go. Press nav and then maneuver and then select PVOR, and then it's giving me the waypoint Rovum right on the top right corner there, and I'm going to select, let's say, inbound radial of, let's say, 070. If I put that one, now what's going to happen if I press enter, the aircraft may turn to this radial if I accept it, but otherwise if I just press heading select, you can see the shadow there, the aircraft was turning. Then I went to just press heading select there, and what I'm going to see now, you can see that from Rovum, initial line was like this, right, from the aircraft. Now we have created this line on a radial of 070 to infinity from Rovum. Okay, so it's going to Rovum on radial of 070 in this case. Okay, and then I can go and adjust a few more things. Here I go, I was in heading select now, so I prevented the aircraft from turning because I'm demonstrating here, so I didn't want the aircraft to intercept that radial, just for traffic purposes and ATC issues. So now I can go to outbound radial from Rovum, from ROV rather, I keep saying Rovum, it's ROV, ROV, and let's say I'm going to type an outbound radial of okay, there it's 070 again. I'm typing and I accept it, and let's see from here what I would do. I would go to maneuver again, PVOR. That was just like I think I want to start over again, and I go to outbound, and now I press 250. I type in 250 from outbound from Rovum, and I pressed accept. Now from here you can see that this is 210, 220 is just somewhere here, so 250 is this radial here from Rovum, okay, and it's extending from here to infinity, and here then it says vector, because now the aircraft doesn't know where it's going, okay, so it has to be vectored. So this is how you do even for a final approach from radar vectors rather, for let's say you're coming in for landing and you're in heading select on vertical speed and you want to extend the center line from the center fix or the final approach fix. That's exactly how you would use the PVOR function, okay. And then after that, what I will do now, because I want to go back to my waypoint Rovum, so I'm going to go DTO, okay, DTO direct to, and I'm going to press I'm going to select ROV, which is number 3, as you can see on the FMS 3, and then I press enter, and there I go, back on track, and here we are, the aircraft is back on track to Rovum. And that's how you perform the PVOR function. And once you're done with everything, you press nav. You see I've just pushed nav there because I did DTO, but the aircraft, if you remember, was in heading select mode, so I want to bring it to LNAV mode. So I tell the aircraft, now your navigation mode will be LNAV, so I go on the FGCP and I push nav, and there we go, the aircraft is now following LNAV route. There is LNAV highlighted on the PFD, and we're done. That's basically how you use a PVOR function. I hope that makes sense. And right now for this function, where we want to create, let's say, a ring around a defined waypoint with let's say a radius and the distance. So what we do here is a very simple thing. Let's say, for example, you're coming in the terminal area and you want to create a 25-mile ring around the, let's say, the beacon, the navigate, which defines that particular airport for MSA purposes, for example. Or you want to create any radius ring around a particular waypoint for your situational awareness. So it's a very simple procedure. What you do, you go to nav, then you're going to click menu and then select fix. Now on the top left line select key, you type the waypoint or the beacon around which you want the ring to be. Then you press enter. And then on the next line, you'll be prompted to type the distance, which is the radius of the ring on the next line select key. If you don't require a radial, for example, you just want a ring, you just select the line select key next to the radial distance field and you press back. When you press back, it will bring some sort of asterisk marks on that particular field. So you won't have a radial, but you just have a distance, which will be the radius or the circumference, okay, of the ring. And to delete the ring, select erase fix. Simple as that. So that wasn't that bad. Now let's see how we do it in the FMS. So here's the MFD presentation again on ROV. This time we are approaching ROV 80 miles, as you can see. And now let's say we want to make a ring around ROV rather. Keep on saying Rovum. ROV, we want to make a ring around ROV. So as I briefed earlier on, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to go to the FMS right now and select nav, menu, and fix. Now you can see here it's telling me which fix you want. So I'm going to type in ROV to tell the FMS I want to work with ROV. So there we go, ROV, and enter, and then accept. You don't have to press accept, you can just press enter, it'll accept automatically. Now it's prompting me the next line here to give a radial and a distance. I don't want any radial, so I'll just enter. When I press enter, it'll highlight the next box immediately. So it's now highlighted the distance field. So I'm going to press let's say 30 mile. I've just typed in 30 mile radius from ROV, which means that I want a ring with a radius of 30 miles around ROV. this 032 radial just came in automatically for some reason. Maybe the FMS is calculating that somehow it's calculating it that it must be 032, but I'm not so sure why the 032 came, but since I don't need it, I'm going to delete it. So once I've done that, now see what happens here. Here's your ring. Okay, here's a proper ring that you have, which has got 30 mile either side of the ROV waypoint that we have. Okay, so the 032, now I can see where it's coming from. Initially I said I don't know, but now I can tell you where it's coming from. I am coming from an easterly direction, from a heading of like 030032. So initially it's going to put me, it's going to tell me that you are on the 032 radial, okay, and from ROV, and the distance around ROV that you wanted me to work on is 30 nautical miles around it. Okay, that's basically about it. So that's how we get that 032 automatically. So it'll just be the radial you're on with reference to that waypoint. Now if I want to delete that thing, the beam point, I've just pressed a beam off. Once I do a beam off, it means that it won't be, it won't show me the beam fix again. Now what I've done here, I'm removing the 032 radial. So you see I've highlighted that radial field with the line select key, and I've pressed back. When I do that, you see what it has bought me. It's bought me some of these asterisk marks rather. So it means that now the radial is no longer an issue, which means that now it will only be the distance. So here we are. It's just going to be basically 30 nautical miles ring around ROV. Okay, that's basically how you create a ring about any waypoint of a certain distance. And if you want to erase that ring, as I said, you just press erase fix like what I did, and once you do that, the ring will disappear. And if you go back and see the MFD, there we go, the ring is no longer there. Okay, so I hope now you're able to create the ring or any ring around a particular waypoint or a beacon. Let's move on to the next presentation now. Okay, if you remember early on, I did mention that we are working on the waypoint ROV, which is a modified version of an actual waypoint on an airway, which is in the vicinity of that airspace, which we call ROVM. ROVM is the established waypoint in the database of the FMSs of every aircraft, and from ROVM we created ROV to facilitate our flight plan routing on this route. So let's say now we want to show ROVM, the actual waypoint from where we have derived the modified waypoint. So what you do in this case to show a waypoint that is not on your track, so ROVM actually, or any other waypoint for that matter, if it's not on your track but you want to show it, if it is within the perimeter of the display of your MFD, it will show. Okay, if it's thousands of miles away, I don't think it will show. So you can show any waypoint on the MFD simply by doing this procedure. So you go to flight plan on the FMS, and then you click next until you reach all the way to the bottom, all the way to the end of the flight plan. Now on that page, when you reach right at the end, the next line will be blank. So you're going to press the line select key for that particular line, and then it will highlight that line in white so you can enter something. Then you're going to press the list button on the FMS, and then you select gap, which will be on the right hand side with its line select key. On the next blank field afterwards, because when you select gap will appear on the first one that you selected, and then there will be a next blank field which you'll have to select, and then you'll type in the name of the waypoint you want to display. So in this case, let's say ROVM, which we will show in a moment. Then you will press enter and accept. Once you do this procedure, you will see this waypoint appearing in white font on the MFD. And to delete it, you simply select the waypoint and press delete twice, and then you're done. So let me show you how we do this in practice on the FMS. Let's go and do it. Okay, so here's again the same display with MFD, approaching closer to ROV as we are doing all our exercises based on this waypoint. So what's going to happen here, I want to show ROVM. So basically ROVM is a waypoint somewhere on the MFD. Let's assume we don't know where it is, but this waypoint here, ROV, is based on that actual waypoint database, ROVM. So let's try and bring ROVM on the MFD and see where it actually is. So in order to do that, as I said, I'll go to flight plan, and then I'm going to go next. I'll keep pressing next until all the way to the end. Then I'm going to press the line set key next to a blank field, and I'm going to go to list and then gap. So you see what has happened there. When I pushed this line select key here, and I press list and gap appeared here. So now it means that there is a gap between the flight plan and any other creations I do below that. That's all it means. Okay. Now here I will type in the name of the waypoint ROVM. So I'll do Romeo Oscar Victor Uniform Mike ROVM, and I'll press enter and accept. Once I do that, ROVM should appear nice and clearly on the MFD. So ROVM is actually here, and this waypoint is ABEAM ROVM. Okay, basically that's how we interpret that one. So simple as that. To bring any waypoint or any certain exercise that you want to do or presentation you do on the MFD with FMS, this is how you do it. You can bring such a waypoint on the display doing that procedure. And if I want to delete ROVM now, because I don't need it anymore, I'm just going to go to ROVM. I'll select it, I'll press delete twice, and then I'll do the same with the gap, delete twice, and there I go. I'm back to where I started from, and I press a nav page for my navigation. I hope that makes sense. Let's move on next one. On the same flight that I was on as I was showing these presentations, it was fortunate for the presentation that as we were flying, we saw a isolated, very massive thunderstorm straight ahead of us on our path. Okay, and I thought it was a good time to also show you how we can circumnavigate around a thunderstorm. Pretty much simple. You just have to avoid it. You do not go into a thunderstorm at any cost. That's very much obvious. Okay, you cannot be so adventurous when you're doing commercial flying. So you can circumnavigate around a build-up using heading select, or you can use an LNAV function with heading select to deviate around the build-up. Okay, so the LNAV function is what we're going to use here because we are explaining the FMS and some of its ins and outs. So what we do, we go to nav page, the first page of the nav page, and then you press heading. When you press heading, you will then be prompted to type in a direction left or right with a value of the heading you want in terms of an angle. Okay, and then when you enter those and you press enter, as it is on the FMS, the aircraft will now turn to that particular desired heading. Or alternatively, what you can do, you can just press once you go to nav first page, go to the heading and you just press enter, and then you can take the heading select knob on the FGCP, and then you can rotate that knob, which will steer the aircraft in the desired direction. When you use that, you will see a dotted cyan line coming on the MFD from where your aircraft's nose is on the aircraft symbol on the MFD, and it's going to tell you which heading you are taking. So obviously it will be to the left or right of the build-up. Okay, so it's a very simple maneuver. So you will not lose your VNAV if you will navigate in LNAV, because the VNAV in this aircraft only works when there is LNAV. If you don't have LNAV, you will not have VNAV, and next presentation will definitely show that. But for now, let's see how we can do this procedure using the FMS to circumnavigate around a thunderstorm. Right, so as I was saying, we were flying 25,000 feet, and straight ahead of us, as you can see, there is a very massive thunderstorm buildup right on our path. So as we were flying, we now thought of, okay, we might go to the left, and on the weather radar screen, as you can see on the MFD, here it is, nicely building up there. Initially, because of the distance, it shows that it's green, so it's not that dangerous, but it was very dangerous as we came across. The colors started changing. So what we decided is, okay, we are going to take left, because the left distance looks a bit more smaller. Normally you avoid a thunderstorm into wind. The wind is 46 knots blowing from the right, so it would have gone that way, but this distance here looked a bit more smaller. So we thought, okay, we'll just take that distance there, it won't push us that badly, and then we can just after we avoid it, after we've deviated and we are clear of the weather, we can then route back to the destination. So what I did rather on the FMS is what I've just told you in the presentation. I'm going to go to nav, which is already nav there. There's nav there already there, nav page. I'm going to click heading. Once I click heading, and I'm just going to press enter. So once I press enter, right now it's flashing, you can see the field was flashing. I pressed enter, and the moment I press enter, I use the heading knob, there it is, and I just turn the aircraft to the left. You can see that the cyan line rather, sorry, is now here. So I told the aircraft, please go to the left, so we avoid all this mess which is in front of us. Okay, and once I did that, the aircraft started comfortably turning, as you can see, and on the PFD it will show LNAV heading select, and you can see the aircraft is turning to the left to follow the heading that I've just given it. Okay, and that way I can avoid the thunderstorm which is right in front of me there, and the aircraft is turning towards the left. It's I hope that makes sense. Alright guys, and now for the last part of this presentation, just a message here, a note that I want you to know. The VNAV, as I said, only works when there is LNAV. If you don't have any LNAV function, let's say you are on heading select, for example, or you have a VOR homing arrangement that you have done with the aircraft to home into a beacon, for example. In such scenarios, VNAV will not work. Okay, so for VNAV to work, you have to be in LNAV or an LNAV heading select mode or an LNAV heading intercept mode, which you normally find on the nav page 1. Okay, now the further out you go, there is a limit to how much VNAV can exist before it says, now I cannot calculate the vertical profile. And that distance is approximately 12.5 nautical miles from your track. So if you deviate left or right of your track approximately 12.5 nautical mile or a bit more than that, and more rather, your VNAV will disconnect. You'll get a message flashing in yellow that VNAV has disconnected. Now to reprogram the VNAV, it's very simple. All you do, you press DTO, then DTO means direct to, and then you can go to any other waypoint ahead of you, the next one or any subsequent waypoint if it's safe to do that. Okay, and then you push nav on the FGCP. In that way, now you have redefined your whole flight path, okay, from where you are to now where you are going. Now it will be a completely new flight path, not the other one where you deviated more than 12.5 nautical miles and you got your VNAV disconnected. And after that, you can now reprogram the VNAV by selecting VNAV on the FMS. Then you click on VPath. You can type in a vertical speed, typically 1500 to 1800 feet per minute. Okay, then you press enter. Once you press enter, now on your magenta track, the new one, that's from your aircraft position to where you are going, you are going to get a top of descent indication, which means that when the aircraft reaches there, now it starts going down for descent. I hope that is making sense, and otherwise I'll be posting more videos here and there on the FMS. The FMS of the Dash 8 is very, very detailed, very interesting once we know how it performs and how it works into many things. So as I get more knowledge, more ideas, I'll be sharing them with you. Other than that, for this presentation, it's about it. Be safe always in your flying, never compromise on safety. Okay, safety comes first and foremost. There is no compromising on safety in any respect in that matter. And once again, I'd like to thank you for some of the comments that you have been posting me. Thank you very much, and I'll try and do my best to give you some more educational tutorials on this aircraft as I get to know it further and further. Be blessed, and thank you very much, and we'll give you the next video.